Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Feel free to put it into the comments or the chat function here. We're so excited to have you all join us today. On behalf of the SOCAP content team, welcome to our Capital Provider Experience webinar. My name is Sarah Sterling. I'm the Vice President of Content and Convening at SOCAP. Before we dive in, let's take a quick look at what we're going to talk about today. For those of you new to our community, we'll start with a very brief history of SOCAP and what this new year and our move to Chicago entails, followed by hearing from our partners at Tonic and Weaving Impact about why the capital provider experience is so important for this year at SOCAP for allocators. We'll then give some examples of sessions that will be part of this experience, and we'll definitely have time at the end to answer any and all questions you may have. So please feel free to drop them in the chat throughout the webinar. Joining me today are Dipti Pratt from Tonic and Pamela Roussos from Weaving Impact.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you both so much for your time. So Dipti and Pamela, I would like to take a minute to have you introduce yourselves, as well as mention how many years you've been a part of the SOCAP community, and maybe a quick funny story from one of your past years at SOCAP. I know I have one from like every single year. Maybe Pamela, you start.
Sure. So I'm Pamela Roussos. I'm the founder of Weaving Impact, CEO, and we're about helping close the racial wealth gap for disinvested communities by supporting social entrepreneurs to help them build economic prosperity in their communities and for themselves. This is based on 25 years of work by Miller Center for Global Impact, and then that was taken into Baltimore and made it into a place-based model by Innovation Works, and Weaving Impact is taking that to other cities across the US. In Chicago, we're actually working with an organization called New Life Centers, and we're also working in Gaithersburg, Maryland with Cross Community. So to answer your question, so there's been 17 SOCAP conferences, and I can think of 4 that I did not participate in, and so there might have been another 1 or 2. So I've been to most of the SOCAP conferences. And, I was actually at the very first SOCAP conference in October 2008. I had recently started mentoring at Miller Center. I was still in the tech industry, had a career in the tech industry, was still working, leading venture-backed companies, but started mentoring these social entrepreneurs, and I had no idea what social entrepreneurship was about, impact investing. And so I thought, well, I should know something about this. And I don't know how a SOCAP conference flyer came across my radar, but it did. So I registered for the conference so I could just learn more. And as I said, this was in October 2008. And if you all remember, in summer and early fall of 2008, the financial markets were tanking. There was no trust in the traditional systems. And so I don't know how many people registered for that conference, but so many more showed up day of to attend because they were like, there's got to be another way. And so in that, we were all just crammed into the spaces to listen to these speakers and such. We were sweating, but there was still a joy and a hope that there were alternative ways and that we didn't need to just fall into the same old systems that were failing around us.
Amazing. Thank you, Pamela. And Dipti, go for it.
Yes, I would love to share more. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dipti Pratt. I'm a managing director at Tonic. I've been at Tonic for about 7 years, and I was trying to think back, when was the first time I touched SOCAP? Because I feel like I joined in the early years, right around 2010, but it was already this larger than life experience. It was like, and you must join Tonic, you must join SOCAP, you must be here. You want to be here where everyone else is. I've had a really long background of impact and have really been privileged to touch impact from all corners of the world, from working with tech and venture and to working with philanthropists and now working with impact investors. And for me, the thing that makes SOCAP so special is it brings and converges all of these individuals in all different corners of my life and brings them to one area and one space. And so for me, the funniest moment I think I've had is the awkward name tag zoom in where you go, I know this person, but where do I know this person from? And so I feel like every SOCAP, I have this opportunity where it's like a reunion of almost a high school reunion, if you will, of people that have touched different moments, different points of your life, and yet bring you energy because we're all in this journey together. And I'm really excited to see and kind of be part of this conversation today and at SOCAP as we come closer.
Awesome. Thank you both. All right. So really quickly, just for people who are like, I have no idea what SOCAP is, I've never heard of this, but I joined this webinar, which welcome and thank you for your time. I'm going to go really quickly over the history of SOCAP just to get us all up to speed. So SOCAP was founded back in 2008, as Pamela mentioned. So we're one of the original movers and shakers in the impact investing ecosystem. And since then, we've grown into a global community that has included anywhere from 800 people to 4,000 people every year. And even though our venues have changed over the years, and with this year, even our city, we still maintain the same focus, which is driving capital into the impact ecosystem to create lasting change around the world. And this just gives you a few statistics from last year, but basically, so that you all know, we're capping attendance intentionally at 1,500 people this year. And this is to really try to increase the number of intentional connections that folks are looking to make and allowing us to help them make it through experiences like the Capital Provider Experience. In past years, and we assume this trend will continue for this year, we've seen about 60% of our community overall in this bucket of funders and founders. So any type of stage or type of capital and any legal incorporation you can imagine, but that is sort of our core audience, right? And the other 40% is shared between a variety of entities, but government, universities, students, consultants, media, advocacy groups, et cetera. So we really are the big tent of the impact ecosystem. And since I mentioned it already, and I moved ahead a little bit to the tracks, but I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we're moving to Chicago this year. This is a really historic moment for us, as we've never moved our global convening outside of San Francisco. So this decision was made over a number of years and a number of conversations with our longstanding partners, and really was deeply intentional. We got feedback from many of our community members, and it really became clear that SOCAP does have a role in the convening ecosystem to bring our community together in other places within the United States for now, but US for now, to spotlight the innovative work that's being done there on a global stage. I also can attest to this after visiting places like Minneapolis and St. Paul and Chicago this year, that there are a lot of incredible change makers doing our type of work, the SOCAP community's work, and have been doing so for generations. So we felt it was really time to share that work with our community and also share what our community is doing with the Midwest. And this move also enables us to do new things like Monday, which is the first day, October 12th, of the event, where we're going to be hosting sessions in the afternoon all around Chicago. So attendees can pick one experience and really dive deep into a specific community and work by one of our partners in Chicago. They're called our Chicago Community Sessions. And so it's just to bring a lot of depth and life into what we're doing in Chicago. So for the tracks, this year we brought back some favorites from previous years, as well as some completely new tracks, and we're really excited to share them with you. The Capital Provider Experience lives across most of these tracks, just as an FYI. I'll go through them really quickly because we want to get to our main focus of our time together today, but you can feel free to learn more about them on our website and the intention behind each one. So track 1, Shaping Capital Systems, which focuses on catalytic capital, institutional markets, private markets, and philanthropy. Track 2 is Pathways to Shared Prosperity, which focuses on essential economy, equity and opportunity, policy, government and social movements, and ownership. Track 3 is Climate Capital, which focuses on climate resilience, nature-based solutions, and the blue economy. Track 4, which is completely new for us, and we're really excited about it, is called A Future That Works for Everyone, and it's focused on silver economy, or the silver tsunami, however, longevity economy, there are many words for it, accessibility and inclusion, and dignity-driven innovation. And last but not least, track 5, the Value of Culture of Place, which focuses on place-based initiatives, media, and the creative economy, as well as community-driven growth. So this time, before we get into what specifically the Capital Provider Experience is, I'd like to talk about purpose and intention. I'm going to pass the mic to my colleagues to talk about why Chicago, why this timing, and specifically, why is this so important, this moment for capital providers? And Pamela, maybe you can start.
Yeah, so why Chicago? First of all, at the risk of sounding like I work for the tourist board, Chicago's a beautiful city. It's an amazing city. I've lived in beautiful cities before in Chicago. I live here in Chicago. It's a beautiful city. It has so much to offer in terms of architecture, great restaurants, amazing arts and entertainment scene. And if you just want to do long walks along Lake Michigan, it's gorgeous. And so I encourage you to come before SOCAP, stay after SOCAP to be able to enjoy all the city has to offer. And the fact that it's got two airports, both O'Hare and Midway, make it really easy for air travel, both domestically and internationally. So I could go on and on about Chicago, but I'll transition and talk about why SOCAP in Chicago. So Chicago has a genuinely strong, vibrant impact investing and social enterprise scene happening. It's got all these institutions like MacArthur, McCormick, Coleman, Pritzker, Brown Foundations, plus many, many more family offices doing important philanthropic work, as well as some more than others doing impact investing. So investing out of their corpus, mission-aligned investing. You also see that, so just so you know, Chicago is a city of neighborhoods. There's 77 neighborhoods, and they are all people identify with their neighborhood. It was something very new to me coming to Chicago. In fact, I was having lunch this week with a potential partner, and it makes so much sense for us to be working together. And they're working in West Garfield Park, and we're working in Humboldt and Park and Little Village. And I'm like, so if we want a program in one of our neighborhoods, will your constituents come? And he's like, no. And it's like, it's not very long. It's like 2 miles away from each other, but there's such an identity with space. And what that means then is you've got thousands of nonprofits and social enterprises working deep within a neighborhood or a couple neighborhoods that have long history in these neighborhoods, are very much trusted by their community. And then there are citywide initiatives too, looking at specific things like violence intervention and getting all the violence intervention organizations that are doing work on the west side and the south side together to work together. So this work goes deep and wide across the city. You also have institutions that are doing great work. You have Loyola University with their Baumhart Center, and you have University of Chicago with Rossandy Center, really focused on social innovation, social entrepreneurship, and then some of the medical systems like Rush that has had a long time focus on health equity. And then you have aggregators like the Impact House that is co-working space for impact organizations, foundations, social enterprises, nonprofits, Matter, which is a co-working space for healthcare organizations, and MHub, which is a hub for hard tech companies. And actually, you'll hear from Sarah later on that through the capital provider curated experience, there is an event that's happening at MHub. So you'll get to really experience the work there. So there's a lot happening in Chicago. I'm super excited. The fact that there's going to be these community excursions, which is a new thing for SOCAP. And so you'll be able to get out into the communities to learn. And then you'll also see that everyone is really wanting to learn from others too. One of the things that I've really been impressed with organizations here in Chicago is that there is a willingness and a desire to learn from others. And so all of that, I think, brings together just this amazing ability to have this conference here that really is focused on connection and action together.
Amazing. Thank you, Pamela. And Dipti, I'm going to hand it to you to talk about, why is this important for capital providers, especially with all of your experience working in the impact investment and ecosystem in general?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. I mean, I think obviously, Chicago is such a unique place to bring this convergence of individuals together. And you even see it in kind of the actors and individuals that make up the ecosystem. But even taking it up a level as to why now and why this moment, I think we're seeing the impact investment ecosystem really maturing, right? There's more actors coming in. All of us that have been in this space, we're also growing as organizations and maturing as organizations. And that's both an opportunity because there are more individuals around the table, but yet it makes it more complex. And so with that complexity, it's a beautiful moment and an opportunity to understand, how do we take a step back? Taking a step back from the day-to-day that we spend and lean our energy into, but actually going, where is the market heading? What can we do collectively? What can we do together? And then also even just thinking about, obviously, the larger macroeconomic conditions, some of the headwinds we're experiencing in the ecosystem. Also, because of the maturity, we have this incredible opportunity to see really new vehicles, new asset classes, new blended finance structures. And so how do we navigate those? What do we think about those? And I think SOCAP is a really beautiful opportunity in place to do that and say, there is uncertainty, but what do we do with it? And what do we do collectively?
Amazing. Thank you, Dipti. And so before we jump into some more of the details of the capital provider experience this year, and in talking also with like Dipti and Pamela and others as we were developing this out and like, what should we include? What should we call this? Dipti and Pamela reminded me we should probably define what capital providers experience actually means. And so I'll have a slide up here in a second, but here we go. Capital providers are any organization or individual actively making decisions about where and how to deploy capital for impact. So this includes, but it's not limited to, because we didn't have enough space on the slide to include everyone, but limited partners, LPs, general partners, GPs, family offices, foundations, and endowments, community development finance institutions or CDFIs, corporate impact investors, and sovereign or institutional funds with impact mandates. But all this to say, you know, those of you who are actively doing the work and are the decision makers within your organizations of how and where to deploy capital, this was created for you. We also, of course, have a lot of other content at SOCAP for those of you who are completely new to the space, dipping your toe into the impact investment ecosystem. But specifically for capital providers, I think it's really important just to clarify that this is for people actively doing the work. And so this is, the whole experience has been designed by and for capital providers. So all of the sessions are led by people who have really deep knowledge in the space, whether it is academic or they're actual practitioners, investors, et cetera. And it's really to create a trusted peer environment where allocators can engage with fellow peers and explore timely topics through an investor lens and build meaningful relationships. Again, this is just one pathway that allocators can choose to engage with at SOCAP in terms of content. We have a lot of other content about other topics. We wanted to be really intentional about creating a space and an experience flow throughout the 3 days, specifically for allocators. And so we'll get to the specific examples, but for now I want to pass the conversation to Dipti first and then Pamela to speak as to like why this decision to have this experience matters for capital providers now, and specifically this year at SOCAP. And so Dipti, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to talk a little bit about kind of the why now. I think one of the first things that I really see, and I felt both as a participant and as an observer, is that the investors who really get the most out of SOCAP aren't those who are looking for the now. What am I going to get in this transactional moment? How are we building something that's picked up from either past events, past moments, or ongoing conversations, and or taking their moments and carrying them forward? I think one of the things that's really great about SOCAP is this opportunity to really expand your perspective and kind of think about what else. What do I learn alongside others, and where and what can I learn about? Where is the market? Where is the impact investing markets heading in the future? What I'm really excited about is I see these turn into really partnerships. They often become co-investment opportunities. And so this brief moment in time in Chicago builds and creates both what we've built already and also what is not yet here. So some of the things that I see really are about what are the investment opportunities, right? Why do investors actually come together? SOCAP does an incredible job of bringing together some really innovative fund managers as well as brand new managers that are either creating something new that we get to have a firsthand look at, to those that are already existing managers that are raising new vehicles and new opportunities. I think we also have this beautiful opportunity to see really innovative ideas. So whether that be from social enterprises and social entrepreneurs, whether that be in fund structures and vehicles that are stood up, and or whether it is also really co-investment opportunities that we can look at and explore together. I know I come to SOCAP with this intention, and I'm always surprised and outmatched as to what it becomes. I leave with brand new relationships that I'm like, how have I not known you before? How have I not run into you in the space? Alongside individuals where it's like, I'm so glad we're here and we're conference buddies yet again at SOCAP. And I also think that really brings a nice thing that I see SOCAP do so well is it's very much around like you're learning from those that are presenting, but you're learning from those alongside you. And some of the conversations that have are really around learning from peers and having those very, very intentional touch points. And I think the thing that is so special for this year is that intentionality that's being put behind the capital providers. And how do we make it so that those intentional points are actually a bit more orchestrated so that you can also get what you've come for? Because we all come for an intention, and taking time away is such a gift, and we certainly recognize it. So how do we lean into that? A couple other things I want to touch on that I think is really beautiful that I've also experienced is SOCAP creates this beautiful opportunity to build relationships with a wide, varied types of individuals. So that includes the family offices, the foundations, the fund managers, some of the institutional investors, the advisors, and some of the ecosystem builders like Tonic. We love showing up because we get a chance to be around so many different types of individuals. The collaborations, I would say, often begin very informally. Some of it, you go to some events and it's very, very intentional. This, it's kind of organic, and it's because of the thoughtfully way with which SOCAP brings the individuals together, the CAP that you alluded to earlier, Sarah. Because of that, we're able to bring this opportunity of being open and seeing who you sit next to and the privilege that comes from that. This year's capital provider experience, it's really designed specifically for allocators. And so I think some of the benefits, just to double click a little bit more into what we're going to experience, is very much curated peer discussions. And so the chance to really be alongside peers. We're going to have the opportunity to open up and have really investor-only networking opportunities. So there is that opportunity to be in community together and have some of those closed-door peer-to-peer conversations. We're also exploring how we can bring together some really facilitated introductions. Organic is beautiful, but also that intentionality and really leaning behind and looking into that. And then finally, the opportunity to how do you make sure that you're actually meeting the managers that align with what your thesis is so that you come exactly expanding what you already hold rather than going, there's so much. So how do you balance that organic with the intentional? We recognize how incredibly busy everyone is. And so with that, SOCAP really does what I believe to be a beautiful job of bringing together the ecosystem's most thoughtful investors, the entrepreneurs, the intermediaries, and fund managers, just having everyone in one place, because we have, as we were talking about earlier, this ecosystem has matured. But the flip side of that is how do you make a choice? And SOCAP makes it a very easy choice because doing such a beautiful job of bringing the individuals together. Our intention and our hope is that with this, what ends up happening is you realize and have the experience to access new investment opportunities, potentially have new investors that you can invest alongside. You have further diligence beyond just the diligence that you've held and done to point, and that you have new managers and new frameworks and the startings of new partnerships.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dipti. And Pamela.
Yeah, I mean, Dipti covered a lot of the things. I'll just kind of dig into a couple of specific points. And, the funding market is very fractured and fragmented. And this is an opportunity for everyone, for capital providers to come together to understand where they sit in the funding landscape and understand who comes before them in supporting entrepreneurs through the capital ladder, who comes in after them, who they can be partnering with, and who you can be partnering with in order to be successful. So we're all about creating success for the social entrepreneurs. And speaking, I spend a lot of time with the entrepreneurs, and they don't know where to go for funding. And so having all of us and help them along the path is really important. And so we have to all together understand what that pathway is. As I mentioned earlier, I used to be in the tech industry and I led venture-backed tech companies. And in the VC world, there are well-worn pathways of funding. You know, as an entrepreneur, that if you get your Series A from this firm, that very likely your Series B is going to come from that or that firm. And you, as an entrepreneur, are working and building relationships with the managers of that firm. The investment directors are helping you manage those relationships, and so there's just kind of, it's not frictionless, obviously, but it's less friction than in the impact space. Those pathways are not worn at all. And so I think, this is an opportunity to come together, to have these discussions, to learn about what role we all can play in order for the success of these entrepreneurs. And Dipti also mentioned about learning from each other. You all are doing amazing, interesting, innovative work. And so why should we all be reinventing wheels? So let's get in rooms and let's share, the goods, the bads, and the uglies, right? And learn from each other in order, again, just to then get to the next level of the work that we all want to be doing. And then finally, I'd say that, SOCAP really does, as we've all shared, bring together social entrepreneurs, community leaders, investors, and other ecosystem members. And it's basically shortening the distance between capital and the community. It's hard to be abstract when you're sitting across the table from a community leader, from a social entrepreneur, someone's doing the work that's a lived experience. And so having those connections for you as capital providers with, like I said, the people that are kind of on the ground doing the work, I think just makes it so much better, because proximity matters, right? And so at the end of the day, SOCAP is providing that environment for proximity.
Amazing. I couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you. Thank you both so much. All right. So now to wrap us up, before we get to your questions, and please do feel free to start placing them into the chat for us to go over at the end. I'm going to walk through some specific examples of the capital provider experience and what to expect in terms of speakers and topics. And then Dipti and Pamela will talk briefly about what to expect for the in-person version of this gathering at SOCAP. Which is the Capital Provider Welcome Session taking place on Monday, October 12th. And so I'm not going to go through these in depth because, again, like we are, even though we're less than 100 days to SOCAP, which is so exciting, we are still confirming a lot of the speakers for these sessions, as well as additional sessions with potential partners. So I just wanted to give you just a little taste of at least the titles and topics of ones that are at least confirmed and are definitely happening. And I've tried to place the lead organization name next to each one if we do have a lead. Again, just to give everyone a sense of some of the topics that are already confirmed for the capital provider experience. But throughout all of these sessions, we have a blend of thought leadership focused interactive panels, hands-on workshops, we have mapping exercises, we have networking events, and as Pamela mentioned, we even have developed an offsite or a Chicago community session taking place at mHub for you all to really learn about innovative ways that financing has been used at the community level when it comes to developing that support, as Pamela mentioned, for entrepreneurs, and also some potential pipeline opportunities for you all if you're interested in investing in the Chicago community and beyond. And so these have all been designed with you all in mind. It's been from feedback that we have had last year, this year, of where are the gaps, where are the knowledge gaps and places where capital providers or allocators really want to come together and discuss and ideate and partner around. So again, as we get closer to the event itself, you'll be able to see all the details on the speaker and the session and structure and in our networking app of Brella, but only if you're registered for SOCAP. So please make sure that you do so after this call. And now I'll just pass it to Pamela and Dipti to just give us a really quick overview of that in-person session. Maybe Dipti, you want to talk a little bit about it because you led a similar one last year that was focused more on specifically catalytic capital. This one will be more open to all capital providers. And as you can see, we do have some of these invitation only sessions, which means it's for you all. So it is to create that peer space for connection and learning. That's what it means for invitation only. So if you, for some reason, have registered for SOCAP, you don't get that invite email, you reach out to me, but through hello@socapglobal.com, and I will get you on that list. So Dipti, can you just give us like super brief overview? I know we're still developing it out, but just to give people a taste.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that we find most beneficial is the opportunity to be in peer community and peer groups, and also stepping into a larger event, whether it be SOCAP or something else. It's always nicer to be in a smaller group to say, what are intentions? What is our hope? What is the expectation of the event? And so what we're creating this year is going to be this capital provider welcome session. The intention is it's going to be the first touch point for you to come into the SOCAP experience. It's going to be interactive pieces so that you're able to meet one another, and an opportunity really to have your peers or your tribe at the event, so that as you go through the course of the event and you're in different moments, you'll have already met individuals, so you know who to look out for when you're looking for a friend you already met, and also who and how to start thinking about those relationships. So the intention with this session is twofold. One, so that you can identify who your peers are and colleagues are from the outset, and two, getting a chance to know one another. And so the session will be dynamic and interactive, and the opportunity to kind of have some really front of mind issues and topics brought forth, as well as kind of a workshop approach. So it's interactive versus sitting and listening. So that's it at the highest level.
Perfect. Thank you, Dipti. And now, the moment maybe some of you have been waiting for to answer any and all questions that you have. We have about 10 minutes left in this call. So as you all put your questions into the chat, my colleagues who are backstage will pass them to me and I'll read them out to review them. And so far we have no questions, so now is your time. I'll wait a few minutes to let you guys type them in if you have any questions. And, you know, again, before we wrap, I just want to thank Dipti and Pamela for their time. I know that you both are super busy, but we really appreciate just all of your support over the years and being part of our SOCAP community and lending your voice to the development of this whole experience. So thank you so much again. And just to reiterate as well, we are recording this call, so after this call, we will be sending out the recording and a recap email to everyone who registered. So if there are some of you who aren't able to join, we will be sending that out to have for you all. So it doesn't seem like there are any questions, which means we did an incredible job and answered any potential questions that could have arisen. So we just want to thank all of you who are listening in for your time and energy in participating in this call. Oh, we have one question. So I will answer that. If any more come in, I will address them as well really quick. Now that you guys think we're leaving, now all the questions are coming in. So Nicole has said, from Piero Ramos, we deploy capital specifically in Latin America. What level of representation do you typically see at SOCAP26 from family offices, foundations, and LPs actively seeking LATAM impact exposure? And so, Piero, this is a great question. I can answer it, and Dipti and Pamela, you can chime in here. I'll answer just because I'm based in Latin America. I'm based in Guatemala. I've been here for 11 years, and I've worked a lot in the ecosystem and the sort of a liaison between SOCAP and Latin America. But I would say, in terms of our geographic presence at SOCAP, and I do want to note, there are a lot of new travel restrictions in place. But I will say outside of the United States and Canada, Latin America is one of our largest representations at SOCAP. And even for those who are based in the United States, there are a lot of people in North America in general who are looking to invest in Latin America. So I do think that it is a very strong presence, strong region of focus for us. Dipti, Pamela, you want to add anything to that?
No, but I definitely can say anecdotally, I've often seen folks from LATAM and run into so many folks that I see at other LATAM conferences. So agree, you can feel the presence.
Definitely. All right, and then we have another question from Laura Zander. Okay. As a high impact nonprofit seeking impact investment, what's the best way to participate at SOCAP? And I want to note that, again, we have a lot of content at SOCAP, and the capital provider experience is just one experience that's woven throughout the 3 days. And a lot of the sessions that I mentioned, and I can go back to the slide, if we want to pull the slides back up really quick, a lot of the topics that I mentioned are open to all. Like the intended audience is for capital providers or allocators, but a lot of them are open to the entire SOCAP community, like the larger main stage conversations, those interactive panels that I mentioned. And so I would strongly suggest, if there is a topic of focus or speakers that you really want to connect with, go to those sessions. We also have a lot of other networking opportunities for the other side of the capital provider spectrum, right? So those who are looking and fundraising and looking for capital, we have a lot of content and experiences as part of the agenda that are not featured here, just because we are focusing for this specific webinar more on the allocator side. We will be having a newcomer welcome session in person for everyone who's new to SOCAP to get together as well on that Monday, separate from and before the capital provider welcome session.
Sarah, if I can chime in here a bit. Laura, just to set your expectations, don't expect to walk away with some funding from the conference, right? That's not what the conference is about. It's not built on transactions. It's built on relationship building. And so this is an opportunity for you to start conversations with people, to learn more about what they're looking for, et cetera. But I just want to make sure that, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs come expecting to walk away with dollars, and that just, I mean, that so rarely happens. So I just want to make sure that your expectations are set. But it is a great place to be where everyone is at the table, but you know, you need to continue to set the table after the conference.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Pamela. Yeah, and I think that's really key, because we are a relationships-driven event. You really do feel like you're part of a larger community when you step through those doors the very first day. And as Dipti mentioned, those relationships do last long after the event. I mean, Pamela and Dipti and I met at SOCAP, and here we are many years later. So, and we hang out outside of work. So, you know. All right, Andy Frank. We're working with arts and cultural groups expanding their real estate programs. There are anchors in disadvantaged communities. Would it make sense for them to attend, or is the focus on allocators and investors? And again, Andy, I think just to reiterate, the webinar here is just to talk about what content has been curated for capital providers, but we have over 60 sessions taking place across the 3 days. And so there are sessions around you know, again, like real estate housing, ownership, you know, like all of the tracks that I mentioned, climate capital and financing, catalytic capital. So we have a lot of other sessions and content that are taking place outside of this experience. And so definitely, I think we are the Big Ten. So anyone and everyone should be attending SOCAP, because we can't do this work alone. We have to have all parties and voices represented at the table for impact to really happen and be sustainable and scale. And Dolly Parik, do you have a session like this for social entrepreneurs? And yes, again, like we have showcases for entrepreneurs. We have networking opportunities for entrepreneurs. We even have a fellowship program that supports sponsored cohorts of entrepreneurs to help them meet potential funders and partners leading up to the conference. So if you're interested in sponsoring a cohort, there's still room and space for that. But we have a lot of content as well that features entrepreneur voices and focuses, you know, opportunities for them to connect. So again, like lots of content happening. Okay, and Philip, I believe I saw a recent RFP from some funding from Sorensen Impact Institute. Will there be updates shared on that effort or other efforts to have funders explore co-funding opportunities? And so I can't speak to that specific RFP. You are correct. It went out. Even though Sorensen Impact Institute is our major funder, our major investor in SOCAP, most of their initiatives are housed within the Sorensen Impact Institute. And so I can't speak to that. Of course, I'm hoping that all of the sessions as part of the capital provider experience will provide that experience to connect with others and create co-funding opportunities. So I hope that answers your question, Philip. All right. Thank you everyone so much for your time. Hopefully we answered on all your questions. Feel free to reach out afterwards at hello@socapglobal.com. Again, thank you so much, Dipti and Pamela, for your time, and we hope to see you all at the event. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you. Come to Chicago.
Come to Chicago.
Yay.